Thank you for joining me again for another episode of my ramblings concerning Ascension and my shift to higher consciousness and all of the things that entails, both in the physical and in the energetic and spiritual worlds. It's always fun to be able to share these things with you, and I'm really thrilled that you decided to hop on today and listen as I kind of express definitely some of the interesting things that have been happening to me over the last few weeks. It was really exciting this week to be able to gather in my very first Zoom gatherings. It's like soul family gatherings is what I'm calling them. This happened this week, and it was kind of like Ascension Diaries, but everybody got to share some of the things that they've been experiencing, and it really, really helped, I think, so many of us not to feel so alone, to have other people to look at and to see that are experiencing the things that we are. And of course, that's my intention with this particular series, is to help you see what I'm going through. And even though I can't hear you reply, some of you have been putting things in the comments, which I'm really grateful for. And I get to see that you're also going through similar things, that these things resonate with you. Really quickly before we get started, I want to remind you to like and subscribe the video so that we can get these Ascension Diaries in front of more people who feel alone and who need to know there are others out there who are experiencing similar things. This week, I honestly feel like it's kind of just a rundown of about 3 or 4 really crazy experiences I've had. Although now I don't really see them as crazy. I see them as very normal, honestly. Going through all the things that I've been going through at this point in time, nothing is too wacky for my life. I don't know about you, but that's basically where I'm at. That's where I'm at today. Let me start with some things that happened to me while I'm sleeping. I don't know about you, but a lot of times I feel like there's activations happening in my sleep. If you read Dolores Cannon, you know that's when a lot of the times things do happen. When she takes people into QHHT and their higher self comes through, or their subconscious comes through and talks about, oh, you felt like this? Well, that's because this was happening. And you don't feel like you're doing anything in the 3D. That's because you're doing it all when you're sleeping. All the energetic stuff is happening while you're asleep. So that's really what I've kind of been paying attention to lately. Sometimes I literally don't remember my dreams, or I have a bad night's sleep. It's not super clear all the time. But one night over this last 2 weeks, whoa, it was a massive shift. And I just keep remembering that I was feeling like I was being lifted off my bed and I was being spun around. I could tell there were just different activations happening. I kind of felt like it was Arcturian, but I was kind of tired and I don't remember exactly. But I felt like I was almost under anesthesia, if you know what I mean. Like I just felt super groggy, but enough awake that I could tell what was happening. I wasn't quite fully asleep when it was happening. It was like a dream, but it was like real. So that was pretty interesting. Speaking of dreams, I did also end up having a dream about interdimensionals, which has been happening more frequently lately, where and I'm going to tell you this dream because I kind of feel like maybe somebody out there might. I've kind of tapped in to find out what it's about, but I'd love to hear your feedback or see if you guys have had any similar dreams. So I looked up in the sky. I was in my dream. I looked up in the sky and I saw first I saw this grid. It was like a box grid, though. It was not rounded or anything. It was just this box grid, almost like, you know how a satellite looks with the little satellite flat parts of it? It just was a grid like that, like windows maybe. But it was square. It was or rectangle or square. Can't remember now. It was different colored lights. But it's just like I looked up in the sky and I saw that and I kind of just felt like I knew it was from interdimensionals. So it wasn't like I saw something that looked like, oh, that's a star. It looked very, very definitely made by interdimensionals or something that wasn't natural, right? So as I was looking up at that, that's what got my attention. All of a sudden, a UFO, a circular UFO came into my view, very big one. And every time I have this in my dreams now, I'm like, beam me up, I'm ready, because that's where I'm at. I don't feel any fear regarding UFOs or regarding interdimensionals anymore, because I know at the vibration I'm at, I'm attracting ones that are going to do or going to interact with me, honor my free will, and, it's going to be the vibration that I need. So that's where I'm at with that as far as discernment goes. So whether or not this really happened, because who knows, but anyway, I went up and they beamed me up in like a tractor beam, right? Like your typical, you'd think. And then I looked around and I was like, what the heck? They were all humans. So I thought that was really weird, because I was totally like prepping myself to be like surrounded by some kind of interesting looking being. And they were all humans. And I kind of asked in my mind, like, I had this question, like, what? Is this like the government? Like, what's going on? Are these really humans? And they said to me telepathically, no, we're just afraid that if you saw us, you would be really freaked out. So we're coming to you looking like this, because that's what we know you can handle right now. And that's kind of where it ended, interestingly enough. That's what part of it I captured the most. Maybe other things might come out to me later and I might remember. But it was interesting that they still know, or they still believe, that humans just can't handle seeing them because they look so different. And I think just because Hollywood has portrayed so many mean and evil looking different beings, where I'm just trying to think, like E.T. definitely showed like a very loving and soft side of what an interdimensional would be like. I'm trying to think of another one. Oh, there's that other movie with Amy Adams, where they're kind of like octopus or squid-like creatures, where they're benevolent beings too. If you can think of any other movies that portray benevolent interdimensionals, will you please put that in the comments? Because I'm trying to find some where they're not mean and violent and evil and all those things. I think Hollywood is slowly catching on to the fact that interdimensionals are good. There's obviously been like kids shows that portray that, that kind of portray them more. They're like us, like they're just like us. They're just, so some of the kids shows, probably because they know they can't do super violent things in the kids shows, but in some of the kids shows, that's what it's like. Speaking of that, gosh, I was just thinking of what's out there as far as media and what's out there to read, comics and things. And somebody was telling me the other day, or I don't know, I was having a conversation about superheroes and how rare it is to see a superhero using their powers for anything other than like fighting evil, I guess you could say, or being violent, because they're kind of usually fighting somebody, so there is violence there. And the person I was speaking with mentioned that there is a comic book character that can manifest anything, can create anything. This is only in the comic books, it's not in the movies. But I thought, well, that's good, because they're finally getting the idea that superpowers don't have to be used for violence. Here on our planet, because of the illusion of duality and the illusion of the good versus evil, so many of that stories surrounding superheroes and superpowers and gifts and multidimensional gifts and metaphysical abilities is surrounding, oh, there's got to be an evil and there's got to be a good, and you have to fight. You have to be on one of the sides. So I thought that was interesting that was brought into my view, and maybe somebody here needs to think about that more. And if you're a writer, you could write a comic that's regarding that, because we are stepping into a time, I really feel strongly, and this is, again, just me rambling, and I hope you're okay with it, but this is another thing. I'm just kind of going with the flow here. We're stepping into a time of creation, a time of creativity. Let me put it that way. People are going to drop their 9-to-5 jobs. They're going to step into careers that are very creative. I had another person interact with me this week who mentioned that AI should be used to take over the menial things so that humans can create more. And I thought that was a really interesting viewpoint, as far as the fact that we do have AI, and it is growing, like it's developing and it's advancing. And it made sense to me that if we're doing it from a place that's higher vibration, that we would use them to cook and to clean and to do the menial things, although those can also be a way to create, I will say that, but so that we can really develop the arts. I've always felt extremely strong about that. I have kids, and I've felt like we're moving into an age where I'm encouraging them to get into places where they can create, things that they can do to be creative, and really felt drawn to developing that part of them. and encouraging that in them. So that was obviously a side tangent because that's not necessarily an experience I had this week, but it was definitely a observation I had probably over the last couple of weeks, honestly. Another story that I want to tell you is regarding an experience I had. I actually shared this in the Zoom gathering, so sorry if you have to listen to this again. But I ended up going to the store this weekend. And of course, if you go to the store on the weekends, there's going to be long lines. Everybody's off work and there's going to be long lines. Well, I ended up at a store and I had grabbed a couple things I needed, got in line, and I was standing there and I remember, and there was only like one other person in line. And I was like, oh, sweet. The store is crowded, but there's only one other person in line. And then I remembered something else I needed. So I thought, okay, well, there's not very long line here, so I'll just go back to the back of the store, see if I can find the thing I need. I went back to the back of the store, couldn't find the thing I needed, came back after about 10 minutes, and there were about 10 people in line. And I was like, dang it, I missed my chance. So here's the moral of the story, or the point of the story. I 100% believe that there is nothing accidental that happens in our lives. We attract everything that's happening. And even something as small as, I'm wasting my time should be, nope, I'm not wasting my time. There's a purpose and a reason for this. So being in that mindset, and even though for several years I was not, for the first part of my life, I did not think that way. And I was frustrated and resentful. And what about all the mistakes and all the accidents? I just didn't think that way. Now I see them all as they're all beautiful, on purpose things. I sat there in the line and I thought, all right, I know what my talents and my gifts are regarding just activating. I've been developing those over many years. And in the recent few months, or I guess maybe 6 months or so, as I've worked with more and more people, I've been seeing those things come out. Whereas I started as a healer and a light worker, using a specific modality to help release trapped emotions, I've now shifted, and many of you know what I do, where I am channeling people's higher selves, channeling their star families, and most of all, helping them shift or activate in some way their energy. Usually people come to me when they're ready for a next level shift. Not just a little teeny emotional thing. It's usually a big thing. So I sat there and I thought, okay, well, who is it? Because there were so many people in the store and in line. And in my view came, this lady was directly in front of me, kind of in this line that was sort of in a snake, snaked around. It wasn't like a straight line. And I saw the lady right in front of me and it was like her. She's the one. And it was weird because I would have, you see people and you're like, oh no, not that person. That person would never. Well, that person would never do that in the physical or in the conscious state. But her higher self came to me and was like, it's me. And I didn't actually even ask like what was going on. I just knew that I needed to be in that person's space and that person needed to be in my space in order for a certain activation that she was ready for to occur. So I just want to tell you that because I feel like there's so many people listening that might possibly be thinking I should be doing more, I feel drawn to do more, or whatever it is. But I will tell you this, you're doing the exact thing that you need to be doing right now. Like right now is exactly what you need to be doing. And when you need to do something different, you'll feel the need to do something different and you'll do it. I know that sounds crazy. It sounds a little weird because a lot of times we shame ourselves for not doing more. But just sit with that for a moment and even ask yourself. Ask your higher self, ask your inner wisdom, whatever it is. Has everything been as it should be up until this point? And I guarantee you, you will get a yes, always. Now, if you do feel a shift coming and it resonates with you to meet with me or meet with another light worker or somebody else who can do a reading or an activation, and then you wait, like, oh, I should meet, I should call, I should email. It's still okay. You got that first inclination to do it. And sometimes it takes a couple weeks, a couple months for you to catch up physically to that thought. And then when the time is right, you'll have the things that you need to do the energy exchange. You'll have the things that you need to communicate. You'll have the time that you need to do it, and you'll be in the right spot. It's happened to me personally every time that I've had a reading or had a massage or something energetic done to me that's involved somebody else. It's always happened in the right time. So I just want to remind you of that for those of you who may be like, oh, I keep getting the feeling to do this and I just keep ignoring it. I'm like, no, you're kind of ignoring it for a reason. You're just not quite ready. There's something about it that's not quite ready. And not because of a negative thing, but just because energetically you're just not there yet. Everything is as it should be. Everything is as it should be. And you all know I've said that before on the podcast. I'm just saying it again for anybody that might need to hear it. The last thing that I want to talk about, I alluded to in the energy update for this week. Okay, I brought through Gaia this week. It was really, really cool. I'm referring to the September 6th energy update if you're listening to this after the fact. And by the way, you do have permission to listen to an energy update when it's not the week of that energy update, and you will still get a ton out of it. I guarantee you. Time is just irrelevant, really. So when I label them with a date, whenever you listen to it is the time that you need that energy update. So anyhow, I talked about spring cleaning, but it's fall cleaning because it's really fall in the Northern Hemisphere. I talked about the feeling and the need that I've had, and I also shared this in the Zoom gathering, the need that I've had to really spruce up, clean up, deep clean, energetically shift, get rid of my wardrobe. I literally gave away tons of my clothing, journals. I've gotten rid of journals. I've gotten rid of just tons of stuff. So if you're feeling that need and you're kind of feeling drawn to do that, don't hesitate to do it. I love that Marie Kondo came through. I feel like that was definitely, there were some strings being pulled energetically before that happened. And obviously we know it did. But if you know anything about the Marie Kondo method, she's basically inviting people to see their physical surroundings and decide and edit what they have based on if it's sparking joy in them. When I see that, I basically say this: if it's resonating with you at the vibration you're at right now and serving you, then you'll want to keep it. If it's not serving you, then it's clashing with your energetic vibration and you need to release it. It's done. It's served its purpose. So I just want you to think about that. Take inventory maybe of your physical surroundings, of any of your belongings, and see if there's something in there that you might be able to release this week or anytime you listen to this, anytime in the coming few months. So thanks again for taking the time to listen to this Ascension Diaries episode. I am definitely not planning on ending this series anytime soon. I have a plethora of content, as every week seems to be a fun adventure for me. I would love again to hear from you, whether or not you feel comfortable commenting on this video, or just send me an email, because I know how alone it can feel. Send me an email, just you and me. Just send me an email and say, hey, I've been going through this, whatever it is you want to share. I will listen. I will understand. I promise. Once again, if you have a quick second, if you could like and subscribe this, if it's a YouTube video you're listening to. If you're on the podcast and you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you could also leave me a review and a rating. Those always help. And as always, I end the same way every time, and I truly believe it to the core of my being. The divinity within me honors the divinity within you. Namaste.